So Goku is evil, huh? Well, to dive into this episode review, alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today giving you my episode 82 review of Dragon Ball Super. We got a lot of stuff to talk about in this episode review today. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video. So, as a whole, looking at this episode, the one thing that I got from it is that it was actually pretty funny. Toppo is like a retro mix between like the Great Saiyaman and like the Ginyu Force and also like Mr. Incredible. So like his body type is like Mr. Incredible, you know, from obviously the Incredibles. His like mannerisms are like Great Saiyaman and his poses are like the Ginyu Force. And it's just so weird because Dragon Ball has often done a lot of these goofy things and it felt so Toriyama-esque. Toriyama likes to add a lot of very quirky elements to the show to make it have humor in it. For example, if you go back all the way to the Majin Buu arc, he invented a silly ass dance to make people fuse, and it was funny seeing like characters having to go through that process every single time they needed to attain such great powers. So for Toppo's character, I think he's pretty funny. And I liked it when he started fighting off against Goku and you see that he jumps over him. He's extremely nimble for a big guy, and he uses a Justice Tornado attack and starts spinning Goku around. Like, you didn't expect that was a very ballerina-esque type of move. And the difference between that is that the Ginyu Force uses a lot of poses when they're actually, you know, obviously fighting against their opponents or when they're preparing for a fight. But the poses weren't as used throughout the battle themselves as opposed to what Toppo was doing, which made him very unique in that manner. So as we're seeing Toppo fighting against Goku, he busts Goku's arm, but Goku somehow like cracks it back in shape. And coming from a guy, you know, who goes to the gym and obviously trains and stuff, I thought that was kind of interesting because in order for you to literally snap your arm back like that, you have to have a lot of mental toughness and a lot of strength and guts to do something like that. And it's just funny seeing Goku just flip it back. Like, these super powerful characters are so above what us humans do. Like, he can just crack it right back and nobody even really thinks twice about it, which is funny. And the interesting thing about this is that when Toppo finally got a chance to grab Goku, when he got him into, I guess you could say, a master lock, Goku had to go Super Saiyan Blue just to get out of it. And that tells you something about how strong Toppo is. And considering the fact that Toppo said later on that he is the second most powerful character out of all of the Universe 11 fighters, right behind Jiren, that told me, well, if Goku has to go Super Saiyan Blue just to get out of his Master Lock and also was powering up into a Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken just to fight against Toppo, that's telling me that Jiren is going to be a big problem. If Toppo is that strong and he's pulling Goku out to use that much, then Jiren definitely has to be on another level. But one thing that a lot of my Dragon Ball Budokai friends out there would have loved about this episode is that this episode took a direct play into the life of Dragon Ball Z Budokai, where Goku uses the Warp Kamehameha. Now, obviously, Goku first used the Warp Kamehameha against Cell during the Cell games, but the way he used it in this episode was exactly like Budokai 1 in the sense where Goku's powering up his Kamehameha, your opponent throws a ki blast that Goku uses instant transmission to dodge, and then Goku teleports right in front of them and blasts them. That was straight from the video games. Obviously, if they didn't take a direct nod to it intentionally, that's another issue. But that's the exact same thing I felt. Seeing Goku powering up, Toppo throws those energy blasts to throw Goku away, and Goku blasts him. And I thought, I was like, wow, like this is like a complete nostalgia run back to the days when I used to play Budokai 1. I'm sure you guys, if you look up on YouTube or any other video source where you can see Goku using the instant transmission, it would be the exact same way he used it on Toppo in this episode. So Goku and Toppo are about to conclude their fight, but the Grand Priest breaks it up, and it kind of makes sense why, because the way that fight was going, one of them was going to either be severely injured or dead and probably not going to be able to fight at 100% for the Tournament of Power. So it made sense why the Grand Priest canceled the fight between them. But interestingly enough, the Zenos wanted the fight to keep going, and I kind of said to myself, if they continued to fight, but not necessarily to the death, would it have really have been a problem? If they found some way to heal themselves within the next 40 hours, it wouldn't have been a big deal, but obviously the plot has to kind of save all of this stuff for the Tournament of Power, so it makes sense why the plot did this, but in terms of logical reasoning for the tournament, they could have healed up and continued to fight and, you know, made the fight obviously last a lot more in my opinion, but that's just my interpretation. And Beerus is pissed about this whole thing because Goku, you know, he's getting so excited for the tournament. He's like, you're the one who's put us in all of this bullshit. And the cool thing about this is that after Goku fought Toppo, Toppo didn't want to shake his hand. And seeing the way Beerus reacted to him so angrily, it kind of re-emphasizes the thing I've been saying in my previous reviews, that Goku really is the bad guy in this instance when you think about it. Like I said, in a vacuum where you didn't know anything about Goku, you never heard of him, you live in another universe, in an entire multiverse, you don't know a thing about Goku, or you've only probably heard his name, you don't know all the great things he does. So if you think about it, a guy who just wants to fight all these people for fun, putting all of the universes in danger for his own entertainment, that's a pretty bad guy. And in this instance, you should be rooting for Toppo because Toppo's actually the good guy in this instance. And in essence, Goku's the bad guy. Even though he's not really a bad guy, he kinda is. What do you think about all of that stuff? So, with all the goofy mannerisms, in addition to the fact that Gohan, I forgot to mention, Gohan loved, you know, watching Toppo fight for justice, and obviously that was a direct nod to the fact that Gohan's the Great Saiyaman. I thought all of the elements in this episode were solid. There was a good amount of action, there was some humor added towards it, and there was a lot of character involvement and interesting dialogue. One thing I will also add is that I felt that the Tournament of Power and the reconstruction of it, that really seemed cool, how you see in kind of a three-dimensional, you know, animation sequence. It wasn't exactly 3D, but it looked similar to 3D where you're seeing like all of the, you know, the particles that are going to be used for the Tournament of Power coming into place, and you see like the electricity like putting it together. I thought that was a cool animated sequence. And my criticism of this episode would really be the fact that I just felt that this episode in the grand scheme of things wasn't necessary. Because to me, if you're gonna make a small exhibition match to make a preview for the Tournament of Power, you might as well allow it to go on longer. But if you're gonna cut it, then it's like, well, this fight didn't really need to happen because even though Goku showed off his power, he wasn't really that strong compared to Universe 11's strongest fighter anyway. So in the grand scheme of things, if they had just stopped this fight after the whole Bergamo fight, then it really wouldn't have changed the plot much, except for showing that Toppo is really strong and he's gonna give Goku a little bit of motivation to do it. So in essence, I didn't feel like this episode was very necessary, but it was fun and there really wasn't much to hate on it, except for the fact that I did feel like it was kind of a dragged out filler fight, but the fighting sequences themselves were decent. And as far as my preview analysis, from what we see, it's simple. Bulma is giving birth to Bra, or they're known as Bulla if you go with the original English dub, and Vegeta is holding her from what it seems in the actual preview itself. And the cool thing about all of this is you see like Bulma's doing like stretches on a ball with the Pilaf gang, which is now completely solidifying the fact that Emperor Pilaf is no longer just a gag character. Like now he's actually one of the good guys. And it's kind of funny because at the beginning of Dragon Ball, you know, Pilaf, Mai, and Shu were like the antagonists. So now Dragon Ball is officially adding like another group of protagonists to the group. But we've seen this in the Future Trunks arc where they were helping Bulma build the time machine and all this. So yeah, guys, it's official. The Pilaf gang are good guys now. They're no longer villains. And I guess that's just the effect of Toriyama's writing, where you just consistently make former predecessors that were antagonists into good guys. So with everything else said, guys, I think the next episode's going to be fun. Seeing Bulma give birth to Bra. Now people aren't going to complain about her not being born yet. And I'm also really looking forward to seeing Krillin's training sequence where we see him fighting against the Basil type looking character who looks shrouded in purple. So he's obviously in a training sequence, and it's gonna be really fun. And it's also fun to see that this is all going to happen in just 40 hours. So we want to see all of the cool power-ups and all that stuff taking place. So I'm gonna give this episode 3 stars. Solid episode, not very good, not great, but it did its job. And I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So with everything else said, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.